Hello, I am Robert L. Patterson, minister for the North Little Rock Church of Christ, located at 1708 Highway 161, North Little Rock, Arkansas. My friends, if this is your first time viewing our videos, please click subscribe. My friends, I wrote a theme called Taken Back from the Devil that we use in our congregation, and I am hoping that I can encourage all gospel preachers to use this theme in their congregations so that the whole world would know that the churches of Christ are working together to tear the synagogues of Satan down. Our lesson for today is Black People History in White America. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8 and 9, "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed." My friends, we need to understand that a lot of reasons the Bible gives us to how we should maintain our lives in order to make it through these troublesome times. My friends, white men have given black people 1 month out of 12 to remember their history in white America. We had a lot of stories being told once a year about black people history, but this is my story. I want to tell it in my way, how I've seen how we lived in white America. My friends, I want to impress upon the hearts of all black people who are living in white America that black people should remember their history in white America every day of our lives, because being black is a God-given honor that no man can take from us. And we must always remember that. My friends, from the days of Adam and Eve until Babel, all the people in the world spoke the same language. My friends, it was at Babel where God separated the people to live in all parts of the world. And God did not separate the people by the color of their skins. He separated them by language. My friends, when you look at Genesis chapter 11, verses 6 through 7, you see what the Bible said, and the Lord said, because the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they began to do, and nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. In verse 7, God said, "Go to, let us go down, and therewith confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So God did that on his own, and that was God's prerogative to change people's language. In verse 8 and verse 9 of Genesis 11, the Bible says, "So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build of the city." In verse 9, the Bible said, "Therefore is the name of that city called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon all the face of the earth." My friends, when God made Adam and Eve, God told Adam to be fruitful and to multiply and to replenish the earth. It was God's will from the beginning that man lived in all parts of the world. But because when they came together at Babel, they started building a city and a tower that would reach into heaven, and God decided to stop that. My friends, black people must never forget that black people were stolen from our native homelands and brought to white America, where we were sold as slaves. Yes, we were stolen. Can you imagine how the family must have felt when their husband and son and daughter went out one day from home to never return because somebody had stolen them and carried them off to some other strange lands? My friends, black people must never forget that some black people were sold as slaves to work as pack horses, building railroads and many other strenuous back-breaking works. Yes, they hauled heavy loads like animals, trying to work and build a country that they knew nothing about. My friends, black people must never forget the struggles, the distresses, and the hardship that black people have gone and are going through here in white America. There's a lot of things that we went through in our ages, not just way 100 years ago. There are things that we can remember back in our time, from 80 years up to now. A lot of things we can remember that happened to us right here in white America. My friends, black people must never forget that some black people were sold as slaves to work in the white slave masters' homes. Even in our days, we know people that had lived, our grandmothers and our mothers sometimes worked in the white people's homes, taking care of their children and their houses, while their houses and children were being neglected. a lot of black mothers were keeping their white kids while their black kids could not even hardly see them, trying to make a living here in white America. Some black men were sold as slaves to protect their white slave masters' females from danger while the slave masters were gone away from home. That was also another thing happening. But in what they did to us, though, you find out that some of those white men would have those slaves castrated so that they were unable to engage in any sexual intercourses with their white females. And those same white males would take another black woman and have sexual intercourse with her. My friends, these are just some of the things that we went through right here in white America. My friends, black people must never forget those long, agonizing years living on those white sharecroppers' plantations, when during the cotton chopping season, grown-ups and teenagers were paid $3 per a 12-hour day. Yes, that's just 25 cents per hour, maybe just a fraction over 25 cents per hour to work on those farms. My friends, the young children could start working at the age of 6 years old and were paid $1.50 per day. For a 12-hour day, they worked all day long for just $1.50. That is approximately 12 cents per hour. Can you imagine working a 6-year-old child in a 12-hour day in those hot fields, and they only got paid just a fraction over 12 cents for an hour? For the whole day's work. Ain't that pitiful? My friends, during the cotton picking season, black people were being paid 50 cents per 100 pounds of cotton. Cotton weighs up real light, and it takes a lot of cotton to make up to 100 pounds. And those people were paying us just 50 cents per 100 pound of cotton. And we had to do that for a living back in those days. My friends, the grown men who worked were operating farm tractors, cotton pickers, combines, and other type of farm machinery was being paid $5 per 12-hour day. And that's just a fraction of 41 cents per hour. And those hours, my friends, were not just 12-hour days during the spring, summer, and fall. They would work those men from sun up to sundown, long days, but they only paid them $5, regardless of how long those days were. My friends, black people must never forget those barriers that the white people put up, showing their discrimination against black people here in white America. My friends, black people could not eat at the white man's restaurant. They could cook the food, and they could do all the cleaning, they could do all the dishwashing and all the other things, but they could not eat in those white people restaurants. Black people could not go into the white man's houses through the front doors. They could work in those houses, but they had to go through the back doors to enter in it. They could clean the whole house up, but they could not go through those front doors. Black people could not go to the white man's schools. I remember one time we were going to school sometime, and we were getting school books that had writing in them, had people's names in them, some pages were missing, because we would never get the new books at our schools. We always had to get those hand-me-down books. Right here in white America, we could not go to the white man's public bathrooms. It was just sad how we could not get things done for ourselves. We could not go to the white man's movie theater and sit in the same area with the white people. We could know those white people. We could work with them, work on their farms and laugh and talk with them. But when you go to the movies, you couldn't sit with them. That was because of the discrimination that was going on between black and white people in those days. We could not drink water from the white man's water fountain. Yes, here in white America, you could just walk by a fountain and thirsty and couldn't drink out of it. And they would post signs to show you that this is not for black people. My friends, black people must never forget that we could buy gasoline from the white man's gasoline stations, but we could not pay for the gasoline in front of the stations. In most places, black people had to go to the back of the station to pay for the gasoline. That was a lot of places that was going on here in white America. We was to travel from Alabama to Arkansas a lot of times and buy gasoline, but we couldn't pay for it if we go to the back and find a black attendant in the back to pay for our gasoline. My friends, black people must never forget those awful things that were done to us by those malicious racial hate groups who are killing and are still killing black people here in white America. My friends, black people must never forget those awful years when black men, women, and children were being raped, stabbed, shot, hung by the throat, by the Ku Klux Klan members and other malicious racial hate groups with no repercussion from the white law enforcement agencies whatsoever. Those people could do whatever they wanted to do. And in Alabama, sometimes we would see those people in those white sheets. My friends, it was awful days that was going on back then, and no matter what you reported, nothing was done about it because they was all in the white sheets of white people doing it. My friends, black people must never forget that some of the Ku Klux Klan members have exchanged their white sheets for some courtroom judge robes. Some have exchanged their illegal use of firearms to receive some policeman uniforms and badges issued to them by the white law enforcement agencies, authorizing them to carry legal firearms that are still being used to kill black people here in white America. My friends, I remember one day I was pulled over by a police officer, and they called me over, and I got arrested because another black guy had pulled off at a bank. I pulled off at another different bank, and they pulled me over, and they arrested me for having a hot check. I had a check in my pocket, I just had cash. And they arrested me, and they took me a whole year to get out of that mess. They locked me up because there were some of those same racial hate groups. They didn't care about what I was right or wrong. They caught a black man, and they used it for their advantage. My friends, black people must never forget that we have never been called by our native names while living in white America. My friends, black people have always been called by some awful racist name given to us by the white people, names such as uncle, Uncle Tom, boy, nigger, Negro, blacks, colored people, African Americans. And now in these days, black people are being called people of color, which is another racist name that black people are being called while living in white America. My friends, in order for the entire world to survive and to live in peace with one another, we all must remember what Paul told the church at Rome in Romans chapter 12, verses 14 through 21. Listen to what the Bible tells us. The Bible said in verse 14, "Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceit." In verse 17, Paul said, "Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men." My friends, back in those days, when our parents would tell us, don't fight back because people did you wrong. They would teach us that. And that found out later on in life that was what Paul was teaching the church at Rome to do, to not fight back. We was taught not to fight back at people. My friends, in verse 18, Paul said, "If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men." In verse 19, Paul said, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." That's God's motto. That's how God wanted things to be done. And that is not just in our age. That has been here ever since the apostles finished writing those verses. If mankind would just learn to do what God say do, all of the problems that we have will be resolved. My friends, black people must never forget that it was by the grace of God that helped us to survive these horrendous hardships and horrendous things that we have gone and been going through and are still going through living in white America. My friends, I am not insensitive nor naive concerning the things that black people have gone through and are still going through here in white America. Yet the truth must be told, because according to Jesus, the Bible is still the word of God, and it tells us in John 8:32, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." In verse 36, Jesus said, "And if the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed." It takes a lot of thought, my friends, to understand what God is teaching us. And one thing that would help us all to understand that we was free from the beginning. We never was made from God to be slaves. We've been slaves all the way through our lives and still being enslaved right now in this world we're living in. My friend, as Paul said in Galatians 4:16, "Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? It's a lot of people today, even black people, who do not want to know the truth of what we went through in this world because of how we live in today. My friends, we need to look at the Bible and look at ourselves and look at our history and always remember that we went through things, and because we went through things, we can still survive as black people here in white America. My friends, thank you for viewing our video, and will you please help us to spread the gospel of Christ by passing our videos on to your family and your friends. Thank you.